Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's essential conversation, Military Community Mentorship Programs, Building Bridges to Success. This conversation is incredibly timely because while the military community is an unparalleled source of skilled, disciplined, and mission focused talent, successful transition from service to civilian life requires more than just recruitment. It requires intentional support and strong bridges to success. Today's discussion is about operationalizing that support. We're moving beyond just recognizing potential to exploring how to make intentional mentorship, apprenticeship, and inclusive hiring a foundational element, a design principle in your organization's talent strategy. We are honored to welcome an amazing group of panelists with deep professional expertise in veteran and military spouse support. My name is Brittany. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the Learning and Development Specialist here at Career Circle. I have black natural hair, brown eyes behind wide brimmed glasses. I'm wearing a turquoise dress, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator today, as evidenced by the smile on my face. We're currently recording this webinar to ensure accessibility for all participants. If you'd like to enable closed captioning, please click More in the bottom right side of your screen, then select Captions and Show Captions. Whether you're an HR committee committed to retention, a hiring manager seeking high potential talent, or a business leader eager to foster a truly inclusive culture, today's conversation is for you. You'll leave with firsthand insights and concrete actions to build successful, sustainable talent pipelines. Without further ado, I'd love to introduce our fantastic group of panelists, and I'll start by having you all please give a brief descriptive introduction and share a bit about yourself. Let's start this off clockwise. Ken, you're at the top of my list. Can you start off for me?
Thanks for this opportunity, Brittany. I am Ken Mays. I'm wearing a blue blazer with a white shirt and a red pocket square. I am bald with a salt and pepper goatee, and I am wearing glasses. I actually help communities solve their talent gaps by connecting them with a pipeline that is most overlooked, of course, military veterans and military spouses. I am a veteran and an HR professional who has helped dozens of employers build veteran hiring programs that improve retention by up to 30%. If talent acquisition is keeping you up at night, let's talk about how veterans can be your solution. Thank you.
Eddie? Thank you so much, Ken. Eddie?
Yes. Hey, Brittany. Thanks for having me today. My name is Eddie Dunn. I'm the interim president for Vets to Industry. I'm Army retired, active duty and reserve time. I've been in the HR talent management space for well over 25 years. Have been in the veteran talent space for nearly 15, actually over 15. So I'm wearing a gray blazer with a lavender shirt, and I have gray hair, kind of mixed. And I have been in this business a long time. So one of the things that I love to talk about is how to mentor veterans, how employers can actually learn and turn mentoring as a business platform in and of themselves. And we're going to get into that later today, but grateful to be here.
Thank you so much, Eddie. Kevin?
Hello, I am Kevin Rash, and I am coming to you from Jacksonville, Florida. I have what used to be ginger hair is now graying thanks to my kids. I also wearing glasses and have a black shirt on. I am representing Wounded Warrior Project. My previous life, I flew helicopters in the Navy for 22 years. I have now been with Wounded Warrior Project for a little over 11 years, representing one of our 18 different programs. Our programs are focused on mental health, physical health and wellness, social connection, and mine are focused on financial wellness, really with the emphasis on employment. So I'm really excited to be able to share some information and to connect with all of you. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And let me just say, I have to say this. Duval.
Right there with you.
All right. Nate, you're up next.
Hey, thanks, Brittany. Nate Smith, lead recruiter, campus and military programs at Pfizer. I've been an HR professional for about the last 10 years, focused on the military talent acquisition space or military programs and early career programs here at the firm. 22 years in the Georgia Army National Guard with about 11 of it on active duty, supporting various operations across the state and internationally as well. And I am, this is the first time a descriptive thing for me. So here we go. I am bald. I have black rim glasses, and I'm wearing a sport coat that I'm really not sure what the pattern is. So, in a button down tan shirt. But happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Nate. And I want to pause for a moment to just thank each of you for your service. And thank you so much for serving us on this panel and giving us the insight that you all are about to give us. All right. We are going to get started with the questions. And the first question is for each of you. All right. Question number one is, what are some effective mentorship programs your organization offers for military job seekers?
I'm happy to jump in if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So with Vets to Industry, we have a phenomenal partner called postveterati.org. Some of you might remember that Veterati was the previous organization, but let me spell that for you. If someone could put this in the chat, that would be phenomenal. But it's POST dash Veterati, VETERATI.org. It's a beautiful mentorship platform that takes people who want to really contribute to service members and gets those service members connected in one platform where they have a quality conversation. It's one of the ones we partner with on a regular basis. Phenomenal organization. I knew the people when they designed it way back when. They just launched. Really good quality organization run by Evan Guzman, is a great friend of mine, and they're taking off. And Dan Collins too is another stalwart of the program. So they're off and running, and it's a phenomenal program, and I strongly recommend it.
Thank you so much, Eddie. Kevin?
Yeah, I'll put a plug in for my program. It's called Warriors to Work, and it's one of our national level programs that we have a team of career coaches all around the country that work one-on-one with the veterans and their family members as well, really helping them prepare them for whatever's next, whether it's transitioning from the service or from an underemployed to a more fully employed situation, or just looking for help with the job that they're currently in. We also work with employers to help them find that military talent and gain their better expectations to what to expect. For scale, the program serves about 4,500 veterans a year. We end up placing about a third of those, but we're always looking to increase the awareness of the program and the scope of what we provide. We've also dabbled in some curriculum certification-based education and really some other upskilling resources that may help you get to a better place in your employment journey.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Nate?
I'll take a shot from the private sector. So at Pfizer, we like to rely on our military leadership council. These are experienced veterans in the industry, or some of them just may be supporters of the military community, may not have served, but they provide a roadmap for our military talent that's beginning their corporate career. We do quarterly touch points at a minimum. We try to showcase what the differences are between the service versus corporate industry and how they can map their career and navigate the intricacies that corporate America brings, how to plan their forward, how to plan their career path. And so we rely on the leaders across the organization that we have that support this community to get after that. We also partner with some external organizations as well that we bring in to do like a step it up program, whether it's in project management, ITPM, app dev, coding, things like that, to help give more skill set to the veteran community that we bring on here.
Thank you so much, Nate. And last, Ken.
Yes, I represent the Daniello Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University, also known as IVMF. And at the IVMF, we host a staff of about 100 professionals, and we deliver career, vocational, and entrepreneurship training to our service members, veterans, and then also our military families. One of the things that we do is we offer some of the following mentoring programs for our job seekers. We have what's called a core, which is an internal platform. It is a community of support that connects our learners, it connects job seekers, and also industry professionals with a lot of different training resources and collaborations tools. But we also have two additional mentorship tracks. One is called the Career Mentorship for Professional Development and with Employability Skills. And we also have our entrepreneurial coaching program that really helps veteran entrepreneurs to thrive when it comes down to building their business. Each of these programs programs includes leadership roundtables, networking, both virtual and in person. And we also refer from a career growth perspective individuals to American corporate partners to align them with mentors around the country.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you. So the next question is for Ken and Nate. The question is, what comprehensive strategies can organizations implement to ensure both their recruitment processes are tailored and supportive, and their workplace culture is actively inclusive and welcoming to the military community? Ken?
Wow, that's a mouthful right there, but it's an excellent questions. I think that organizations that are serious about military talent, they need to focus, I would say, on four different pillars. Those four pillars are like targeted recruiting. You know, if you're looking for veterans, then your recruiting strategy needs to be targeted towards veterans. Their branding is another very important part. Strategic partnerships, such as with the Institute for Veterans and Military Families and other organizations that are present on today's session. Another area will be some internal cultural intelligence development. So first, we talk about targeting veterans and military spouses, you know, just working with the transition assistance programs around the country, working with spouses, Blue Star families, any organization that basically advocates for the military community. It's important that your organization has a connection. Second is going to be the authentic branding. If you have a focus on recruiting veterans and male spouses into your workplace, then it needs to resonate not only from your website, but it also has to be on your job descriptions. If you want to hire veterans, then your job descriptions should say something like veterans are encouraged to apply or military spouses are encouraged to apply. The brand must be consistent. You can't say you want to hire veterans, but then when I go on your website, I don't see any veterans or any indications of any military connection. The internal cultural intelligence, I think that's important because you have to have an understanding of the military culture within your organization, so that when you bring these individuals into your organization, they will feel welcomed. But also, it's a great tool for hiring managers and other leaders within the organization, so that they understand that there is a communication gap or maybe a translation gap, and having a strong cultural intelligence development program will help them to better align their actions to ensure that everyone feels included. And then the last one will be is working with the veteran employees. If you have veteran employees within your organization, you know, one of the best practices from when I was a SHRM ambassador indicated that veteran recruiting teams that were staffed by veterans stood a greater chance of recruiting veterans, right? And that's one of the best practices from a great, well-known government contractor, and it yield so many positive outcomes. So those are some of the things that I would recommend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ken. Nate?
Yeah, so a lot what Ken said, those four pillars are fantastic. And we start ours with the internal education side of our hiring managers and HRBPs, right? We encourage them to look at military talent and what the business case is for what veterans and military talent bring to the firm, whether that's dedication, loyalty, trainability, time management, all those skills that you get from wearing a uniform, that just make us a good candidate for a role, right? So we start on the education side. Then we go to the job description. We look for opportunity in the firm that veteran talent aligns well with. Most of our roles are 70% in the tech space. So that can be a little bit difficult with some of the skill sets that we're looking for in the financial services and tech side, but we find roles that transition well to a service member, whether it's early career, mid career, or senior career. We target those populations. Then we look at creative pathways for employment, whether it's a rotational program for entry level that exposes them to a couple different things, and goes takes that more development mentorship approach through their career, and then moving them to that post program role or assignment, to looking at how do we craft a job description that speaks specifically to a military candidate for those roles that we're looking at targeting. So, well, Ken was talking, and we've done some work with the IVM, for a proud supporter of the IVMF, proud partner of them. I was pulling up a job description that I crafted that was going straight to the military community, and it's looking how we word it, right? How do military personnel speak? What are their values? It's about serving. It's about loyalty. It's about duty. It's about continuing your career and transitioning to a new career that meets those core functions. So, um, using that little handy dandy tool in Microsoft Word called a thesaurus, and changing some of the words that we would use that speak more to our community, and it speaks to them that, hey, this is an accepting environment. This is a place where I can grow. This is a place where I can transition. And this is a place that I have a future at, not a job, but a career. And we were very successful there, and it's a model that we're going to continue forward. And I'm happy to share examples of that with any of the talent acquisition professionals that may be in the chat or on the call.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, Kevin,
No, oh, good.
was someone about to say something? All right. So what I'll do is I'll move on to the next question, which is, to what extent does professional networking, the who you know factor, drive successful career transitions for veterans and military spouses? And what actionable steps can organizations and job seekers take to facilitate these crucial connections? This question is for Kevin and Eddie.
Yeah, that's why I was unmuting. But you really can't understate the importance of networking. It's the old adage of it's not how well you do, it's who you know. There's a lot of truth to that, and it's not because it's the good old boy network, like they're only going to pick their friends for these types of positions and everything. But the benefits of networking is you gain visibility into different areas of possible new employment pathways. You also gain education. You really can learn a lot about what that job network or job opportunity is, because a lot of transitioning service members don't really know what they want to do. They've got a ton of experience, a ton of skills. They're coming from a very close knit network of the organizations that they or the services that they supported, but now they're trying to seek new tribes. And networks can pop up in a lot of different ways. There's alumni networks, there's church networks, there's veteran networks, there are community networks. They're everywhere, and I encourage people to join as many as you can, because you get out there, and a lot of them there's overlap. You'll see a lot of similar people in a lot of these different networking events that you go to. Sometimes it's not comfortable going to these networking events and putting yourself out there, but it's a necessary evil. You really have to get out there. Also, can't understate the importance of LinkedIn. LinkedIn has revolutionized networking, especially in the digital space. The people that are on LinkedIn are typically there because they are either seeking employment, or because they want to help someone with employment, or they want to hire somebody. So if you get on LinkedIn, don't be shy. And I know there's been a lot of discussion back and forth about how much information do I put out on the internet? Do I get in the social media? You want to be found on LinkedIn. You want to have a solid profile, and you want to be able to attract the right kind of people that are looking for you. So work with people to help optimize your LinkedIn. AI is a wonderful tool if you can learn how to use those tools. But I think getting on LinkedIn and then leveraging it for the benefits that are there. If you see somebody that you're connected with, then maybe they're one connection away from somebody that you'd like to be introduced to. And 9 times out of 10, a quick note to them is like, hey, we connected during this career circle webinar, and I see you're connected to this person. Would you mind introducing me? They'll do it. And I think that everyone wants to try and pay it forward. I find that with the veteran community in particular, is we're so service oriented that people who have helped us, we want to be able to pay it forward. And that networking component of the job search is something that you can't discount, and you really have to invest in.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Eddie?
Awesome. And I'll just build on what Kevin just said, but I'm going to come at it from a different angle. So when I think about networking, everyone, all my teams and everyone I've ever worked with and all the mentees I've ever talked to, I never really call it networking. I call it relationship building 101. And it's the quality of the relationship you build over time that begins to yield things to you in the context of what comes towards you in terms of opportunities. Now, what do I mean by that? Very specifically, many service members, when they hear the word networking, it is counterintuitive to their own value system, simply because they're trying to get something for something instead of contributing selflessly which is their moral value. And so there's a little bit of a battle inside a service member that says, I really don't know how to do this. I really don't understand why I'm doing this and the value, right? And then I have to ask for something to a complete stranger. And that's not how to do networking, by the way. And there's that congruency that needs to evolve over time by learning how to build relationships. Once you build relationships, and always in my career, having been in this space a long time, when you really think about it, and I'll share this about myself because every single person has to eat their own dog food one way or another, right? So you have to think about it that way. I've never applied for a job and got the job. Every single job in my career has always come from a relationship, always. And it's the extension of, hey, Eddie, I'm working on something and I haven't advertised it yet, but would you be interested in helping me with this? And all of a sudden, I'm talking to someone who opens up a requisition and I'm getting pulled into the organization. That comes with time. And I get this Q&A all the time. Well, Eddie, you don't understand. I need a job. Yes, and you still need to build the long-term relationships. Conversely, with employers, the bottom line up front is service members don't know how to do this well. So we ask for the type of grace that enables us to learn how to do that well. And there is a whole thing. We can spend a whole career circle thing just on this topic alone. But I just wanted to get that for the audience, particularly the veterans that might be listening to this.
Can I add a piece of that from a TA perspective? And this is something I'm running into. David in the chat mentioned the 50 Strong Mentorship platform, and a colleague of mine and I were talking about this last night. So it touches on this with LinkedIn. You got to use the LinkedIn correctly. When you see recruiter or talent acquisition professional or something along those lines, that's not the keys to the kingdom. That's not networking. I get a lot of folks, a lot of veterans that reach out to me that are, hey, this is me. I'm looking at this position. Can you point me in the right direction? A network is a mutually beneficial relationship. You need to bring something to the table as well. Recruiters find positions to people, not people to positions. 99.9% of the time. There are exceptions to the rule. And most of those are from the network side because, hey, I know somebody and I've got a need here and I think he'll be really great at getting after what I'm trying to do. Or I think she'll be really great at getting after what I'm trying to do. That's the 0.9 that I throw in there. Be intentional about your network. Make it mutual and you'll be successful. Don't just go to the recruiter and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. It doesn't work that way. Right. We get inundated with that stuff and we don't have time to reply. I would love to reply to every veteran out there. Bandwidth is limited. So it's got to be a mutually beneficial thing. And I just want to make sure that we're touching on that and understanding how to use LinkedIn correctly.
Absolutely. Yes. Ken, I love this. I love this. Jump right on in.
Yeah, I wanted to also add that there's something out there. It's called the hidden job board. Up to 80% of jobs that a lot of military people are actually qualified to do, especially if you're like mid-level or senior level executives, those jobs are not being posted at all. And the only way you're going to learn about those jobs is through relationships. My role that I just, when I was hired by IVMF 9 years ago, it was because I was in a meeting. I was invited to a meeting and a gentleman said, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, nothing. He said, hey, come on, sit in this meeting with me. And it just happens to be the guy that interviewed me from IVMF. He said, hey, we're looking for a program manager for this particular job. I was in the right place at the right time with the right person with the proper level of relationship that gained me access to sit at that table. So keep in mind that if you have all of these great skills, these top secret clearances, and all of these certifications, a lot of those job announcements are not going to appear on LinkedIn or Indeed or some of the other job boards. All that information is going to circulate internal within a network. That there is the key to networking and why you should take it serious. Like Kevin and Eddie said, you have to be very intentional about what it is that you're doing. Don't just shoot, and I'll use an analogy that I always use with military personnel. When you go to the range, we got 5.56 millimeter. That's very deliberate. That strikes in one spot. A lot of people are job seeking, and it's like they're shooting out shotgun rounds, which splatters all over the place. And they want to see what sticks. You got to be very intentional about your approach, and I think you will improve the likelihood of getting the role that you're looking for.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. Let me just say this. I'm going to pause for the cause because I love it when we have these little nuggets of you all coming in and giving those nuggets. Sometimes we can provide these questions and you might have something that you want to add. I want you all to feel free to do that because let me just tell you what you've just said absolutely resonates with me. And so if we can do this, this will help me to be able to identify you. If you can mute yourself and if you do want to chat or say something, just unmute yourself and I will absolutely identify you to speak next. Eddie, you had your hand up?
Yeah, and just if I can build on what Ken says, because we can do a whole webinar just on this
Yes.
alone. And
Yes.
the thing is being every service member needs to be much smarter than they were before. So I
Mhm.
always reserve the right to get smarter each time I do this, right? It's just the way it is. You have to learn on the fly, build the plane while it's up in the air, all those kinds of things. But to me, what's very specific is be intentional. To build on Ken's point earlier, is that what does it mean by being intentional? I would not go through certain industries, right? So you need to know what industries you're going into, the type of people in those companies you want to go towards, and the people in those companies to be able to have a strategic pool of people you're targeting that you want to connect to. Doesn't mean you don't have random conversations with people at Starbucks and all of a sudden that person's opening the door for you. Have those always, right? But you should always be very, very, very smart in how you target, thinking through strategically so you can get precision over the target.
I, I keep thinking about my past, right? Through this conversation. I was the only experience I had was the Georgia Army National Guard and whatever deployments I did at that time. I just finished my degree in criminal justice. I had a plan to go be in law enforcement. I met my now spouse, and she said, "Nuh-uh, you're gonna be home every night. You've done enough dangerous stuff in your day," and sent me to a first data military recruitment event. I didn't know anything about fintech. I didn't know anything about um, transaction processing or credit card swiping. I just knew they took my money when I did it. Right here, I am today. It was handshakes and what the grip and grin. That's all it was. Grip and grin and the ability to learn, showing aptitude, and coming in with a go getter attitude. And now I'm moving as an advocate for veterans, right? And I say that because a lot of service members look at what they've done in the past. All right, I'm good at operations, I'm good at project management, I'm good at stuff implementations. I can plan well, but they don't look at the breadth of opportunity that's out there. Or to say
Yes.
I did cyber in the army, that's all I can do on the civilian side. I have so many conversations with service members and spouses, and I'm just sitting there thinking in my head, I don't know what I got right now, but this is a win for Pfizer, and I need to take this to somebody who may have something or can create something, and we've got to get them. Don't know any details at that point. I have no idea what it's going to be, and we end up bringing them in just off that off the cuff conversation, an intentional conversation, an intentional networking thing, throwing some ideas at them. Have you thought about sales? Have you thought about finance? Have you thought about this path? And I go, well, yeah, I kind of did a little bit of that when I was in the military, or I had experience doing this before I joined the service. And now they're an enterprise sales executive. You never know. And the whole point of it is just don't go in with a mindset of the shotgun blast sometimes works, Ken, but be open to opportunity and do that grip and grin and showcase yourself. And don't just, it's amazing where the path will take you. You may not always know, but it'll get you somewhere and you'd be surprised at the end result. So be open to everything.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for that insight. Next question is for Eddie and Ken. How can organizations ensure their onboarding processes are inclusive and supportive of veterans and military spouses? Eddie?
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably spin this a little bit differently because I've been thinking a lot about this. And so quality onboarding equals retention. And so I'm very focused on employers right now because I think this is an important great question to bring up. So when I think about from an employer perspective, right, we looked at, and in a previous life, I helped build the United Health Group Skill Bridge program, and we had a 80% retention rate from the inception of that program. And it was all based on how we onboarded those service members, right? As they came in through SkillBridge, which is a phenomenal program when it's done correctly, when the employer knows how to employ it effectively and begins to measure the results needed to see and sustain the program. But underneath that, that onboarding has to be unique. If an employer applies a regular onboarding program for a service member that's freshly out of the military, they're going to miss the mark. So, quality onboarding for the veteran, unique to their experience, by the way, will equal long term retention if you do it well. And that is a key sweet spot that many, many employers do not know how to do and do it well enough to gain the retention rate. So, you can get them in the front door, but the churn and burn is behind the scenes when they're running out the back door because they've got other things they're trying to deal with. And that onboarding is token and not effective enough. So we need to hold our organizations accountable based on that, meaning that when you're looking at retention values, what is the outcome? If it's retention, there should be bonuses applied to that. There should be performance metrics that say, we need to retain our veterans because we've just made an investment here. And this onboarding is a critical aspect of getting the retention that we need long term, because we know the churn and burn of turnover is very significant right now. So that's kind of the insight I would provide in that particular context.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Eddie said, SHRM and Blue Star Families did a survey, and they said that organizations with specialized onboarding passages have 45% lower first year turnover.
Absolutely, Ken.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
for
that
saying
is
that.
great information that you provided. But here's what derails a lot of organizations. Even if they have an onboarding program, there's something else that they need to take into consideration, and it's referred to as psychological safety. I think that's important, especially when you're talking about people who've been serving for 20, 25, 30 years. They know what they know, and you have a hard time convincing them otherwise, right? So, an organization that does not welcome, is not inclusive when it comes down to people sharing their knowledge within the organization, can actually create some barriers as well. And psychological safety, there's like four different, there's inclusion safety, there's the learning safety, the contribution safety, and the challenge safety. If you're in a meeting and you're throwing information out there and it's not being well received, then that's an indication of a communication problem, right? Within the organization, you have new people coming in with new ideas, but they don't feel psychologically comfortable sharing the ideas because they fear rejection, right? So you can have a great organization with good leaders, but when they sit in those meetings, when it's time to share information, knowledge sharing is the key to strategic success. But in order for knowledge to be shared, there has to be a level of psychological safety within the organization so that people feel comfortable, number one, sharing information, or comfortable with maybe not getting something right the first time, right? Because the military is one of those zero-sum organizations. Sometimes the only objective is to be successful in the mission. And that may not happen all the time, but that is the mindset of a lot of veterans. They come in and they don't want to fail at anything. But in an organization, you have to be able to say, okay, well, maybe we don't get it right the first time. What did we learn from that? Now let's pivot and let's take a different approach. So I think psychological safety is another important part to add on to what Eddie was saying with the effective onboarding programs as well. Now, onboarding, it can't be a shotgun blast. There's that term again, right? It has to be onboarding that is unique for the individual coming into that organization. And I think all of those things can help.
I love that so much. Now I'm gonna start using that phrase, shotgun blast. I like it. I like it a lot. This next question is for Kevin and Eddie. What are the most effective strategies for internal leaders to champion and create accountability for veteran and military spouse hiring and retention initiatives across different departments. Kevin?
I love the fact that you include the retention part in that. It's not just the hiring part, it's retaining that talent. And I think that if you take a step back and look big picture wise, there's a good news story about that, about veteran employment. The veterans unemployment rate has trended better than the national average for the past few years. A lot of companies recognize the value they're getting into hiring veterans. And it's not just because it's the patriotic thing to do, it's because there's true value in hiring these veterans. The adaptability they bring, the skills, the soft skills they bring, there's a lot of ROI from a business perspective into hiring veterans. And then there's a cost of turnover, a cost of retention too. So they want to retain them. And I think that, it's important for when you're creating job descriptions, make sure you're looking at what's truly needed at the job. Don't just blanketly state, I need a bachelor's degree or I need something like that. Look at experience in lieu of. There's a ton of veterans that may have like 30 years of experience, may not have ever finished a bachelor's degree that would be more than qualified to do their job, but they get filtered out because they don't check one box on the job description. So be smart about when you're writing job descriptions, and then be supportive too. I think one of the things that we see when we get people into an organization across the board is if we provide opportunities for professional development and growth and promotion, that's going to lead to retention. Quality of life is huge. People come in, they joined the service, they volunteered for the service after 1973. They weren't drafted, and they have a sense of purpose. They're there because they're participating in something that's maybe bigger themselves, but they're there because they want to add value. They're not just there to make widgets or to check boxes there. So value that commitment. And I think what we've seen is the most successful employers are the ones that have a strong culture around supporting their veterans, supporting their individual employees, to get them to grow. And as an individual, as a veteran, if you're working in a company and you're not feeling that, you're not under orders anymore either. We see a lot of veterans that may get hired by a company and it's their first job out of the service and they feel loyal, like this is the company that took a chance on me. I owe them that I have to stay there. If you're not happy, the best time to get a job is when you have a job. Don't let it manifest itself into poor performance, declining performance. Be able to look and see that there are more employers that want to hire veterans than veterans seeking employment. It's our job to try and match that and find that optimal fit for you. But the reality is, like, you are not under orders anymore. And I think that we say that, but sometimes it doesn't sink in.
Absolutely, Kevin. Was there anyone else that wanted to add to that?
This is really about internal champions, right, Brittany? About talking that through a little bit. Yeah, just from a practical execution perspective, when I think about internal champions, I always think in terms of design and how you actually nurture and grow them over time. So just like anything else, when you have and this is for all the Air Force folks, if you have a B-52 bomber covering the field, you definitely have coverage in the context of how that. Same thing with a C-suite leader, a senior executive. And when I have built and designed these programs over the years, it's always with the mindset of how do you continue to build not just one, but multiple champions across the board? How do they ultimately fit into the organization? Do you have those champions thematically, not only vertically in the chain, but horizontally across the business and how it straddles the business, right? So when you're able to create that level of influence and relationship, again, comes back down to the relationship. That means that there's every opportunity of success because you have senior leaders that are pushing and ensuring the quality of what's being delivered and the positive accountability that takes place. And so it's been my experience over the years. I will always start with a pilot. I'll have the first champion in the door, then I'll ask that champion, build a relationship, and then I'll say, who's the next one next to you that would be able to join us? You always start small, you prove the efficacy of your model within the organization, and then you begin to expand and expand and expand. And so when you have those opportunities like that, that has been my fundamental way of growing phenomenal programs with employers over the years. And it's been something that's been part of my playbook for the last 25 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your responses. The next ones are for Nate and for Ken. What are some common misconceptions about hiring from the military community, and how can employers address them? Nate?
Oh wow! When I first came on, it was a different time period. It was what 2015 and 2014, 2015. Uh, I was scared that since I was still currently serving in the guard and in the guard that I was going to have to leave. Right. That was a question that I got a lot in some interviews when I was looking for my first opportunity. Oh, so you're still in the guard? So when are you going to deploy again? Are you looking to deploy again? Are you looking to go on orders? I was like, nope, I'm good. I got like I want to try and stay home as long as I can. But if I have to, I have to. And had an upfront, honest conversation with us. That was one of the things that bugged me or was a hiccup in my career search at the beginning. And we alleviate that here with a supportive policy in case that happens, right? Our guard and reserve policy at Pfizer is industry leading, in my opinion. It was fantastic. I've been called up twice in my time here for extended periods of time, and they have supported me 110%. So um, we make that business case to bring them on. And when our policies align with that business case and when our policies support the associate now, then it builds value into the firm. And then they're going to stick with us for 5, 10 years, and we don't have to go recruit that position again or source that position again. We're going to grow them within our firm. And that's one way that we get around that. Another misconception that I see is they're too direct and they're hard chargers and all that stuff. I think that's positive, right? Now, like the service member needs to maybe learn, like I did as an NCO, I had to learn how to tamper that down a little bit. You can tell when I came back from a drill weekend because I went to my team and I was a little bit, hey, we need to get this going. We need to go now, and there's no conversation about it. I want you to execute, right? And then like Wednesday, it would die down a little bit. But we bring our MLC in to help mentor these new associates, help mentor our new team members that may be fresh out of uniform, and in some of the corporate speaking industries. And hey, it's a little bit slower here. We're not used to running as fast as you guys do, or you did in uniform. You got to be a little bit more patient. It's a little bit more bureaucratic to get things done. Um, so we identify what could be a misconception, and then we work with the leaders and the individual in addressing that, I don't want to say correcting, I want to say addressing that, improving it, building upon, um, all the way down to getting rid of the word train. I don't like the word train. I've tried to implement something. You train a dog, you develop, coach, and mentor an individual. um, that's something I'm trying to push here, and I've got my boss doing it now, so I'm real proud of that one. um, that's how I look at it, right? I don't know if anybody's got anything to add to that.
Yeah, I can definitely add on to that. And yeah, that is a term that I use. You train dogs, you develop people, right? And yeah, I really appreciate that. And there are a lot of misconceptions out there, but the bottom line is all of these misconceptions are costing these organizations exceptional talent, right? One of the big ones out there is that military experience does not translate to civilian work.
Ken?
Oop, I think you froze up on us.
All right. He's still on, so what I'll do is this.
Maybe
Oh,
we'll wait for him a second and I think I know where he was going. So then I can help him if he comes
Tells you,
back for a
but
second here. Oh, there he is. You're
Ken, you're
back.
back. You froze for a moment.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. We're so happy that you're back. Sidebar journey. I just want to give you your props because the last time you were on this panel, you said the exact same thing that Nate said about
Right,
training. And so, if you could start from there, because that's when you kind of dropped off, I wanted to
right.
definitely give you your flowers to say that you definitely said it first, the first person that I heard to say that
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful comment. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we train dogs and we develop people, right? That's the
Absolutely.
mindset we have to have. But what I was stating it was that one of the biggest misconceptions is that military experience doesn't translate to civilian work. And I also stated that the military has been a proving ground for a lot of things that are done in corporate America today, even to include what's referred to as skills-based employment. Now we have to focus on the skills. So yeah, as service members, you have to put in the effort to find out what the parallel term is for what you did in the military. And there's a lot of resources out there that can help with that. But if you're looking for talent, I think you need to lean more towards the skill sets and how these skills will help the individual bring some value to the organization. So that's one of the big ones. And then, of course, the PTSD, preconceived notion that every veteran has PTSD. Well, I mean, it's no different than the level of PTSD in the private sector. And you don't have to be a combatant or what we call a person who was in a conflict or combat veteran to have PTSD. I mean, you can almost get hit by a car and have PTSD, right? So that there is a misnomer. And if those individuals who need assistance, the assistance is out there for them to get the help that they need. But just to assume that all veterans have PTSD, I think that's an injustice to the veteran population because there's a huge segment of military personnel that never even go to combat zones. I had some combat service, but it's not like I was on the front line shooting rounds down range. Some of us have different roles that don't put us in that type of environment. So just to assume that they all have PTSD is definitely not fair to the veteran. Those are some of the misperceived notions about military employment.
Eddie?
Thanks for saying that, Ken,
Mhm.
on the
Yeah.
behavioral or the mental health side, right? I think
Yeah.
we just had mental health month, awareness month. It was your September, October. Um, and I've heard that a lot around the firm. And but we bring it out in the open. We talk about it. And we educate, right? That there may be folks that you're sitting to your left and right that may be struggling with something, right? And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll tell you, I struggle with it. I do. Coming into office every day and people moving around me all the time. Sometimes it's a fight. Don't be ashamed of it. So thanks for mentioning that.
Kevin?
Yeah, just want to piggyback on that. Like Wounded Warrior Project invests heavily in our mental health programming. And I think one of the things you have to realize that financial stress is one of the major triggers for mental health issues. And not having a job is one of the biggest tangible indicators of financial wellness or not having financial wellness. So the reality is that, all these mental health issues, they're not unique to the military, but sometimes they're exacerbated by military service. But there are programs out there that can help. And I think it's okay to be able to be vulnerable and ask for help. And I think that's where a lot of veterans struggle. They're unwilling to ask for help. So sometimes we have to maybe give them a little nudge and get out there and help them out. But realize that these are definite issues out there that have to be addressed.
Can I just add a little bit more to that? Is that okay, Brittany? I know we can do another whole webinar just on this, but
Absolutely, Eddie, but I also wanted to just say this before you do.
yeah.
I quickly went to Kevin, but I want to acknowledge thank you so much for being vulnerable and feeling this was a safe space enough to be able to share that experience, your own personal experience. So thank you for doing that. And please add what you were going to add, Eddie.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna be on the other side of the mental health piece because what we're really speaking to fundamentally are biases that we see systematically. And one of the big ones that we don't talk about a lot, we always call it about translation of skills, and just as really Ken's earlier point, but I call it a systems bias, right? And so any organizations I've ever been in, I will typically do the data dump and analysis around. I look at total applications of the civilian counterparts, and I look at the veteran calculations and the populations, and typically there is a negative disproportional impact of application ratios. So that's sometimes an indication. Anecdotally, and there's a lot of heavy anecdotal evidence to suggest that the translations from a systems perspective is not getting through. So when someone like Nate talks about the job description, it has a downstream effect because now there's a better probability of success. But I believe FISERV is just an exception, not the rule when it comes to that. So you're still fighting a systems bias that is very strong and is an undercurrent that I think employers need to get better at. And it's not a shot over their bow in the context of anything negative. It's that because they're not educated well enough to take advantage of the talent. And that's what I'm driving towards and helping employers understand that.
I Thanks for pointing that out. I don't know. Let's go with the Fortune 500. We'll take the top 500 countries and 500 companies in the U.S. And I would say probably of that 500, 10% are really strong in the space, in the military talent acquisition space. We're a very small community. I know the folks at Johnson Johnson. I know, the 50 strong folks. I'm playing in all these different spaces, and I wish there were more firms that were joining. And I think your data is showing something that's fairly accurate. But my data shows me that 3 out of 4 veterans that I get past the recruiter and to the hiring manager, we're making an offer on. So
That's
if
great.
the numbers showing that proportionately with military talent, I'm at a higher offer rate than I am, to our civilian counterparts. That's the business case alone, just on the TA side, in the recruitment side for bringing vet talent in. Maybe I'm just that good of a salesman with them. I don't know, but like that's I'll take 75% over in that population all day long.
Those recruiting numbers are amazing. I'm telling you.
Nate, buy anything you're selling, my friend. It's all good.
I
Well, I
love
got a
that.
car in the backyard I'm trying to get rid of if you want to
There
come
you
by
go.
that too.
Okay, okay. So, y'all, can you believe it's already been 51 minutes? It feels like it's been more like 20. What I want to do is have you all to answer our final question, and I'm going to tell you the names and how the order that it's going to go, and then I'll ask you the question. So we're gonna go Nate, Kevin, Ken, and then we're gonna close it out with you, Eddie. All right. The question is, what's one action human resources and talent acquisition or people leaders can take tomorrow to move the needle on military inclusion in their workplace? Nate?
One action. Wow. There's so many, but education for me, right? Educate yourself on the value add, and be open minded. Change your perception. Change your, if you had some of these biases that we're talking about, ignore them. Right? I don't buy a bias. I just don't. I don't have room for it. We're a great population of folks. We're dedicated. Learn about them. Learn about us, and you'd be amazed what we can do.
Thank you so much, Nate. Kevin?
I was going to just say hire a veteran, but I think the more important thing is if you're in a company and you're looking at the talent that you have, identify those veterans. If you're a veteran seeking employment, be proud about being a veteran. You bring a lot to the table. I think companies need to identify the value that you bring, and a lot of times, like veterans are hesitant to self-identify. Companies may not know how many veterans they have working with or for them. So be proud and put that on your LinkedIn. Let them know that you're a proud veteran, and don't use that because that is a tactical advantage that's going to get you to where you need to be.
Thank you, Kevin. Ken?
Well, I think number one would be to eliminate all performative activity, right? Stop checking the box because checking the box, it does not imply that you're being thorough or that you're being intentional. And what gets measured improves, but what gets measured and checked improves exponentially. And that is how you take accountability and you add it into your program. Make people accountable, measure their work, and if they refuse to comply with what the goals are, what the standards are, then you have to take some additional steps. You have to look at things through a different lens when it gets to that point. But when you hold people accountable, you stand the greatest opportunity of achieving what it is that you want to achieve, especially when it comes down to veteran employment, because that is going to be one of the ways that you're going to be able to kind of curtail the bias. Because as Eddie mentioned, there is a lot of systems bias out there. There's, affinity bias, there's beauty bias. There's so many bias out there when it comes down to recruiting and retention. But one of the ways you can kind of manage that is you gotta check and you gotta hold people accountable.
Absolutely, Ken. Eddie, closing us out with the questions.
Wow. Okay. I almost think that this is almost the wrong question to ask. And let me just hear me out on this, because it's one of the things that I've been noodling for quite a long time. Well, all of us have been in the military transition space for many years, and I keep seeing the same patterns over and over again. There's like this wash, rinse, repeat cycle where we keep thinking that veterans can do all of these wonderful things. And 15, 20 years later, we're still saying the same things, but does business actually believe it? So to me, I think the question is what I would call a new value proposition that HR must wrestle with and take it to the C-suite level. This has to be a business value proposition that's constructed across one big question, but three areas. Can you actually improve your organizational performance, increase your revenue by learning how to hire veterans more effectively? If you can answer that with a straight line and value proposition that answers those things, I think where you're going to have a much more effective. There is evidence to suggest that Vets Indexes, and I'll give them a plug, you can go look at their data, and there's a financial difference between those companies that financially perform at a different level when they deliberately hire veterans. So that's an implication around organizational performance and revenue growth over time that the C-suite level must own. They must own it. And then they need to make HR accountable, to Ken's earlier point, right? And how to be able to harness the real true value of veterans. That would be, to me, the holy grail as I've continued to think about it.
Thank you so much, Eddie. I love how you just told me that question was the wrong question. I love it. I love it a lot. Let me just say, this has been an insightful conversation, so much so we had a few questions from the audience, but unfortunately, we won't be able to get to them. I am going to encourage our audience members, connect with these wonderful gentlemen on LinkedIn. Let them know how much the things that they have shared has resonated with you. We want to ensure that you all are able to connect. That's that whole networking thing, right? Tell them how amazing that you thought that this panel was. Let them know what nuggets that they dropped that really impacted you. All right. With that, I want to thank you all so much for joining us for Military Community Mentorship Programs, Building Bridges to Success. A huge thank you, huge to Ken Mays, Kevin Raish, Eddie Dunn, and Nate Smith for your strategic insights, passion, and honesty. You've given our audience so much to think about and, more importantly, act on. We hope today's conversation has provided you with the practical strategies needed to go beyond simple recruiting and start viewing intentional mentorship and support as the core design principle of your military talent strategy. Building successful, sustainable talent pipelines isn't a one-time effort. It's an ongoing commitment to listening, learning, and creating systems where transitioning service members, veterans, and military spouses can truly thrive in the civilian workforce. As we wrap up, we have a couple of quick asks. Please take a few minutes to complete our post-webinar survey, which will be included in the follow-up email. Your feedback helps us to continue to improve and bring you meaningful conversations such as the one that we've just had. Follow us on social media to stay connected, access additional resources, and learn about upcoming events and initiatives focused on talent acquisition and workplace inclusion. Mark your calendars for our future events. Keep an eye out on our events page and socials for announcements about next year's events, which will be announced soon. You can view the events at careercircle.com/events. And the last thing, before you go, we're excited to offer you free access to over 1,000 professional development courses thanks to our new partnership with IBM Skill Build. This is a massive resource to help you upskill or reskill your entire team. Seriously, over 1,000 courses, zero cost. It's a phenomenal deal. Don't miss out. Head to the link in the chat now or reference our post-event email to get started. We'll also be sharing a recording of today's webinar along with the transcript and any resources mentioned in that same follow-up email. Thank you again for being here and for committing to building successful, sustainable, and inclusive talent pipelines year-round. Take care, and we look forward to staying connected. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you.